Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1. My name is Reese and this is our coverage of the Sprint Shootout for Qatar ahead of our sprint race later on today when, of course, as we all know, Max Verstappen can claim his third world title. Now, before we get into anything, make sure firstly that you do subscribe and like and comment and all that wonderful stuff. But also, it's been a weird old day before any cars have even hit the track. Now, Pirelli and the FIA are very concerned about tyre degradation around this track. Firstly, it's obviously very hot, about 36 degrees, 35, 36 degrees it was air temperature today in Qatar during the sprint shootout. It will obviously go down as we go into the night, but it'll still be very hot. It was about 31 degrees last night. But also, due to the amount of curbs that the guys are taking around the track, this is also cutting into the tyres as well. So, some changes have been made overnight to kind of try and eradicate these issues. Firstly, turn 12 and 13, track limits have been revised and the curbs have been moved in. As in, they have just been painted and extended more into the track. The reason for this is so that or it used to be yesterday, was if they were riding the car perfectly on the track limits, the left-hand side tyres would be scraping along the side of the curb and cutting away at the tyres. Now the curb is more moved in. That means that the left-hand side tyres will be riding on top of the curb and will cut down there less, and that will hopefully eradicate some tyre degradation from that point of view. But after the sprint race, Pirelli are going to analyse the tyres again, and if we are in a position where they deem it unsafe, we could be seeing tomorrow a mandatory free-stop race, which I don't think has ever happened before. Now, what's more interesting about this? Personally, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I'm all for safety. I'm all for looking after the drivers, of course, but these are the best drivers and best teams in the world, or so we are told. They should have the ability to tell what's going on in their car and know how the tyres are working. Now, I know they've had less practice sessions, and they haven't had any practice sessions at the time of the actual race, so they don't know how that's going to react there. But surely they should be able to tell what's going on and build a viable strategy from there. So we'll have to wait and see how this goes. But personally, I think the team should be left to solve it themselves. Have Pirelli say to teams, look, we're worried about tyre degradation, make sure you keep an eye on it. But I don't want to be in a position where Pirelli are going, right, you can only do 20 laps on these tyres, you can only do 15 laps on these tyres, so that Pirelli are basically telling the teams what their strategy is going to be, and then we just see identical strategies all across the grid. That's not what I want to see when we come to that race on Sunday, and hopefully that's not what we will see. In addition to this, we had the F1 familiarization session, which was a 10-minute practice session when the drivers went out and were able to drive around the track to get used to the new track limits on turn 12 and 13. There was no lap times or anything, not even the commentators knew the lap times, so there was nothing for us as fans, but for the drivers it helped them build up the confidence as they went around the track again, as it had been hugely changed from what they would have had yesterday and also in their simulations and all that kind of stuff. So, very accommodating of the FIA to do this, and a good idea. Anyway, it's time to actually talk about the sprint shootout. We're 4 minutes in, we haven't spoken about the thing we're here to talk about, which is the sprint shootout. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that I'm actually a big fan of the sprint shootout, but I didn't enjoy this one because it wasn't the same, and I imagine it is due to that tyre degradation. In the past sprint shootouts, what we've seen is just the cars go out and basically be out for the entire session, hitting lap after lap after lap, and we see those lap times slowly fall down. Whereas here, there's a hair on the microphone, they kind of it just felt like a normal qualifying where they came out, did a lap, came back in, went out again, did another lap. Of course, we had the return of the star of the show from yesterday, track limits. So Logan Sargent had time deleted, Charles Leclerc had a time deleted, Lewis Hamilton had a time deleted, Logan Sargent had a time deleted again, Yuki Tsunoda had a time deleted, And when we come to it at the end of SQ1, it was Logan Sargent out in P20 with a time deleted, so no time set for him. Magnussen was 19th. Yuki Tsunoda was 18th. He would have made it through but had a time deleted. Then it was 17th for Alexander Albon and 16th for Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll out again in Q1. Either there was no tantrums this time or we haven't seen the tantrums yet. But, of course, Lance Stroll massively furious yesterday, but keeping it all in control so far today, unless we just didn't see it. Of course, there is the chance of it all kicking off in the sprint race later today, and if it does, I'll be here after the race to talk all about it. But before we go into SQ2, of course, we have the people who broke the maximum delta time. Now, there was a lot of names of guys who broke the maximum delta time yesterday, and it seemed like no punishments were handed out, which is a huge surprise. Jokingly, of course, they had never punished any of these guys for this. So here are the list of the guys who broke the maximum delta time for SQ1. George Russell, Liam Hallison. Liam Hallison is a new driver. But also Lewis Hamilton broke the maximum delta time, as did Liam Lawson. Pierre Gasly also broke it, so did Logan Sargent, Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll and Alexander Albon. So they've all broken the maximum delta time. I'm sure they'll all be called to the stewards, then it'll all be fine. Into SQ2, and track limits are back. Lewis Hamilton time deleted, Charles Leclerc time deleted, Guan Yu Zhou time deleted, Carlos Sainz time deleted, Lewis Hamilton time deleted again. And as at the end of SQ2, it is Zhou in 15th. Lawson originally was 13th, had his time deleted, pushed down to 14th. Bottas, who put in a fantastic lap yesterday, wasn't able to replicate that and is now 13th. Lewis Hamilton, 12th. So he'll start, I think, 3rd for the feature race, but 12th for the sprint race after his time was also deleted, but his faster time still would not have been good enough to get through, would only put him 11th. And speaking of 11th, that place went to Pierre Gasly. So there you go, that was the guys out in SQ2, and we also had guys breaking the maximum delta time in SQ2, and that was George Russell and Pierre Gasly. So SQ3 is a very interesting one, where it just started off with the Red Bulls and the Ferraris going out to set their times at the start of the sessions, and Max Verstappen has a time deleted, which I think is the first time for that to happen this weekend. Leclerc gets another time deleted, as does Sergio Perez. Then just at the end, everyone comes out, and it's basically a one-lap shootout for a lot of these guys. Lando Norris, though, he sets a couple laps, and towards the end, Max Verstappen crosses the line to go 3rd, leaving Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris 1 and 2. So it was going to be a McLaren front row, but in which order was the big question. Lando Norris on a belter of a lap, looking secure to take pole position for this sprint race, then goes massively wide on the final corner of his final fast lap, handing the sprint pole to Oscar Piastri. So here's your top 10 as it stands right now. So it's Esteban Ocon in 10th. Fernando Alonso was 5th, but had his time deleted. He will start 9th. Perez in 8th. A fantastic lap for Hülkenberg puts him 7th. Charles Leclerc is 6th. Sainz is 5th. Russell 4th. Verstappen 3rd. Lando Norris 2nd. Oscar Piastri in P1. A front row lockout for McLaren. And the interesting question, though, I thought I caught it when we were on board with his lap, but I am sure Max Verstappen went off on his fast lap. They showed the replay again at the end, and I think he's off. I would not be surprised if Max Verstappen gets his lap time deleted, and I think his second fast lap time was only good enough for like 7th or 8th place. I'm going to check Twitter, which I know is a very rude thing to do whilst recording, but yesterday I got caught out, and I won't have it happen again, because yesterday I said that Oscar Piastri was P3, and it turns out he was P6 because I wasn't looking on Twitter. All I'm seeing is that Ollie Palmer has scored for Wrexham. It's 1-0 against Crawley Town. Let's have a look. Anything else? It doesn't look like it. I think we're okay. As it stands right now, Max Verstappen is P3. This could all fall apart at any time. I'm going to check the F1 official Twitter. they normally say these things. No, they're just asking if anyone's checked in on Oscar Piastri's mum. As it stands, Max Verstappen is P3, but that could all change. Max Verstappen, of course, just needing to finish P6 to secure his title. We'll be back to cover all that after the race this evening. Let me know what you think of this sprint shootout. I thought this was the worst sprint shootout we've had, but I do quite like this track. I think we're going to be in a massive mess come sprint race, come feature race, because those lap time deleted are going to turn into warnings and then 5-second penalties. And we could be in a position, hopefully we're not, but we could be in a position like we were in Austria, where 2 hours after the race they hand out 100-second worth of penalties and all the positions change. So we'll wait and see how it goes from here. But as of right now, that is our top 10. A very exciting weekend of Formula 1 coming up for us. Qualifying is done. It's time to go racing. We'll be back here later on today, so make sure you subscribe. Until then, though, have a good one. Goodbye.